Before proceeding further with the agenda item 8, I shall invite the Secretariat to make a housekeeping announcement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I only have a short announcement. The elections to the Governing Council of CEAP and APDIM will take place in Conference Room 1, Level 2, United Nations Conference Center from 2 to 4 p.m. In accordance with paragraph 6 of the Commission Terms of Reference, member governments, but not associate members, are entitled to vote. Voting will be by secret ballot. Ballot papers will be provided in the election room. Further information can be found in Conference Bulletin 3 on the Commission website. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Excellencies, we shall now begin our deliberations on the agenda item 8, the theme topic for the 72nd session of the Commission, Science, Technology and Innovation for Sustainable Development. The document before you for this agenda item is Science, Technology and Innovation for Sustainable Development in E/ESCAP/72/32. For our consideration of this item, we will have a ministerial roundtable. Like the high-level exchange earlier today, this roundtable is also being webcast live. I welcome everyone who is connected to us virtually and invite them to tweet their questions to the panelists. The Twitter handle is at ESCAP in all capital letters with the hashtag CS72. The Ministerial Roundtable will be moderated by Ms. Shamshad Akhtar, the Undersecretary General of the United Nations and Executive Secretary of ESCAP. And the distinguished members of the panel, His Excellency Mr. Rana Tanveer Hussain, the Federal Minister for Science and Technology, Pakistan, His Excellency Professor Laxman Senaviranthi, the State Minister of Science, Technology and Research, Sri Lanka, His Excellency Mr. Timur Sulnov, the Minister of Economy and Financial Policy, Eurasian Economic Commission, His Excellency Dr. R. Chidambaram, the Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India and the Chairman of the Scientific Advisory Committee to the Cabinet of India, and His Excellency Mr. Robert Harutyanan, the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Armenia. May I now invite Ms. Shamshad Akhtar to moderate the session and make opening remarks, and in doing so, I also invite the distinguished panelists to please join Madam Executive Secretary at the rostrum. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very good beginning.
Thank you.
Chair, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I know in interest of time I need to get going with this panel. It's really a pleasure and honor to moderate the Ministerial Roundtable to discuss our just launched theme study on harnessing science, technology and innovation for inclusive and sustainable development in Asia and the Pacific. I'm really proud of my colleagues who have made this possible. As I have reported to some of you, science, technology, and innovation is a new area for ESCAP. To set the scene for discussion, I would like to briefly highlight the tremendous potential of science, technology, and innovation to achieve sustainable development and share with you some of the key messages of the report. Investment in science, technology, and innovation, STI, needs to be the backbone of productivity-led economic recovery and sustainable development. Despite significant increases in productivity over the past few decades, as we have talked about, economic growth in developing economies of Asia and Pacific has been largely driven by factor accumulation, and clearly there are limitations of that. However, with the average rate of productivity growth now slowing by almost 65%, between 2000 to 2007, and also in more recent years, its ability to contribute to economic growth has been undermined, and also its ability to support effective implementation of 2030's Agenda for Sustainable Development. So to revive growth in productivity, we must commit jointly our efforts in STI, particularly in developing a highly skilled labor force. The good news for all of us is that our region is already at the frontier of all this, and it is home to some of the most dynamic and innovative economies in the world. A number of our countries appear in the top ranking of the world STI centers. The theme study that has been distributed to all of you shows that many of our member states are leading the world in innovative business environments, socially inclusive initiatives, and complex scientific research, and I'm sure we will hear more from our panelists. A number of our economies also rank among the best in terms of research spending as a share of GDP, with the region accounting for almost 43% of global research and development expenditure. Indeed, in 2013 alone, Asian developing economies spent more than 650 billion on research and development. The theme study that we are talking about points out that these impressive gains have been confined to a relatively small number of economies. To meet our ambitions of 2030 Agenda and Asia-Pacific region, we of course will have to work together to harness science, technology, and innovation. Of course, I'd like to learn more from you than to communicate what our thought process has been, but I think in terms of the theme study, which is the central element of our discussion, I'd like to point out that our study identifies 4 elements that need to be addressed. And first is that we must develop a common and an effective platform and conceptual framework to enable science, technology, and innovation to be more economically and socially inclusive, while promoting climate resilience and reduction of carbon emissions. Of course, for anything to work effectively, you need effective institutions, you need appropriate legal and regulatory frameworks, and these days added to this is, of course, high-quality modern digital infrastructure to complement the smooth legal and regulatory frameworks. We, of course, in the region and elsewhere, have to enhance the commitment to STI, and appropriate mechanism is to develop a right set of incentive framework to incentivize investments. And of course, skills is quite critical, so you need a workforce that can be very futuristic in facilitating STI. Governments can help incentivize the process by increasing, supporting, and utilizing advanced technology in its procurement process, for instance. Many regional economies already score quite high in this regard, as I have pointed out, with average rating for some Asia-Pacific middle-income economies rivaling those of high-income economies worldwide. So we are very proud of our region in that context. Second message that our report brings out is that to implement the goals, governments will need to develop integrated and visionary STI policies. And I can tell you that the advisory panel that we have for science, technology, and innovation all have emphasized this point. They have talked about need to incentivize businesses and investors to support the 3 dimensions of sustainable development: economic, social, and environmental. Of course, this requires explicit consideration of all 3 outcomes in the reporting standards. A robust business environment is important to innovation. Indeed, our analysis shows a positive relationship between the level of innovation in an economy and the quality of the business environment. A third message that this report that we are talking about brings about is that we do need STI policies and strategies to be inclusive, open, and collaborative. Being inclusive in how we innovate, engaging vulnerable communities in the process of innovation and developing innovations that are accessible and affordable for our region and for our people. Now, at present, 6% of the poor in low-income economies worldwide have used mobile phone payment systems. Less than 1% have in Asia-Pacific region, so the divide is quite significant, what has become quite popularly known as digital divide. The final message is that there is ample scope for regional STI collaboration. We know there has been collaboration between a developed part of the world and the low-income part, but I think what we are after is nurturing regional STI collaboration. The challenge is to develop concrete and sustainable innovation and technology sharing opportunities to help bridge the gaps that remain to enable countries at all levels of development to take advantage of available technologies and to develop a robust regional culture of innovation. And of course, this sharing has to be universal, which means do not forget your women. You have to really include them in the ranks of the professionals. We know that today slightly more than half of undergraduate students are women, yet they only represent 28% of the world's researchers. By the way, according to one of the statistics in our report, that about 95% of the researchers are concentrated in 3 countries or so. So we need to spread and augment our capacities of the researchers too. So I'm going to stop here. There will be further discussion amongst the panelists and experts, but also eventually we are opening the door for intergovernmental deliberations later in the year as we set up the STI committee on the platform of ESCAP. So with these introductory and scene-setting remarks, I'd like to turn to our leaders and experts of the region, and we have a very good combination of expertise across this table. I am going to, at the outset, request them to limit their comments to 5 minutes each, and I will be addressing a set of questions to them, but by all means, I would like them to concentrate on what they think they can add value to and advise us on. A key normative shift the theme study, as you may have all read, stresses is the need to move innovation policies beyond the economic imperative to include social environmental considerations to truly be sustainable. This is almost a mantra in United Nations now. We are interested in, of course, hearing from our panelists more about how governments are developing and how governments are implementing STI policies to benefit the economy, society, and environment. What have been the successes? What are the challenges lying ahead? So with this background, let me first turn to His Excellency, Mr. Rana Tanveer Hussain. As we all know, Pakistan has a relatively high level of tertiary academic attainment that is well ahead of some of the comparable economies, which has created a high-quality pool of scientists and technologists. So, Mr. Tanveer, I'd like to ask you, how is Pakistan ensuring that their efforts advance economy, society, and environment, to advance economy, society, and environment? The floor is all yours.
Thank you very much for providing me this opportunity. Pakistan in the last decade has extensively spent its resources on development human resource with a focused effort towards higher education. For ensuring that potential and efforts of high quality pool of scientists and technologists developed by Pakistan are utilized to advance economy, society, and environment. The Ministry of Science and Technology is preparing following key documents to provide direction to national research and development effort. National Research Agenda. The National Research Agenda is being prepared with the aim to align the national research and development and innovation activities with the Pakistan's Vision 2025, which is the national development agenda for the next decade, and to provide a direction to the national research and development efforts so that they adequately support the achievement of the goals set in the Vision 2025. The goals set in Pakistan Vision 2025 are in the line with the global SDGs in local scenario, which is an effort towards the sustainable path. The National Research Agenda, which identifies following 14 priority areas vital for national growth and development, is based on the input of large number of stakeholders, including scientists, engineers, researchers, industrialists, and policymakers. 14 points of agenda. Number 1 is agriculture and food security. Number 2, automotives. Number 3, biotechnology. 4, climate change and environment. Number 5, electronics. 6, energy, fuel, cell technology. 7, health and pharmaceuticals. 8, housing. 9, information and communication technologies. 10, marine resources. 11, mineral resources. 12, nanotechnology. 13, space technology. 14, water. Higher education in Pakistan. Students enrolled 276 to 774. These were in 2002, and now it becomes 2013 and 14. It is almost 1,400,000. Number of PhDs. In 2001 and 2002, they were 176. Now it's 1,351. Foreign masters PhD scholars, 3,500. And in these, from amongst these scholarships students, 1,856 completed. Indigenous masters PhD scholarships, 7,337. And 1,441 completed. Research publications risen from 1,000 per year from 2003 to 8,000 plus. This data clearly indicates an exponential increase in the highly educated human resource of Pakistan. Ministry of Science and Technology is in the process of finalizing science, technology, and innovation strategy for the next decade in order to achieve well-defined goals for science and technology development in the country. It is envisaged that this would help in implement STI policies, leading sustainable economic, social, and environmental development. This would help ensure the utilization of highly educated human resource of Pakistan. In Pakistan, the National Commission of Science and Technology is the highest forum to take decision with regard to STI and is headed by the Prime Minister of the country. The Executive Committee of National Science Council for Science and Technology, which is called NCST, has formulated recommendations for effective utilization of high-level STI human resources. These recommendations include measures may be taken for ensuring that the research and development activities are planned and executed in consultation and collaboration with the industrial sector, thus engaging private sector to share research and development funds. To overcome the problem of brain drain and retain competent manpower in S&T and R&D organization for the country, a uniform salary structure for scientists, engineers, and technicians or research and development organization. For evolving a social environment where people are inclined to have a scientific approach, a communication strategy for enabling environment for promoting scientific mindset and culture in the society was also proposed. The need for a comprehensive communication strategy to build a strong narrative for transforming our world view in this respect. The government of Pakistan, realizing the importance of technical and vocational training, has taken drastic steps towards its speedy development, which includes the development of National Skills Strategy 2009-13, in consultation with all provincial and regional stakeholders. Major achievements progress in this regard are establishment of national accreditation regime in TVETA sector of Pakistan and its successful implementation. Since 2013, within a short possible time, 1,130 trades programs of about 200 institutes have been accredited. NAVTEC, the concerned organization, has established 130 vocational training centers institute in 79 uncovered tehsil of Sindh, Punjab, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Balochistan, Azad, Jammu and Kashmir, and Gilgit, Pakistan, different parts of Pakistan, where no TVET institutes existed earlier. Under the program, 37,521 trainees have been trained. Under Prime Minister of Pakistan direction, the initiative of offering short-term skill development programs under Hunar Mand Pakistan program up to 6 months duration course in collaboration with public and private sector training institutes have been started. It covers priority sectors including construction, tourism, hotel management, agriculture, dairy and livestock, IT and telecommunication, and skills for women. The other sectors being addressed are hospitality, light engineering, paramedics, services, traditional trades, cottage crafts, etc., and textile. The geographic spread covers whole of Pakistan, including Azad, Jammu and Kashmir, Fata and Gilgit-Baltistan. The first ever National Vocational Qualification Framework of the country has been launched on March 4, 2015. Introduction of Prime Minister Youth Skill Development Program is also being implemented by NAVTEC. Madam Chairman, let me throw a little light on the action taken by Pakistan towards setting its direction for the achievements of SDGs. Keeping in view the country's specific condition, Pakistan aligned its vision 2025 with SDGs Global Development Agenda. It puts emphasis on knowledge, innovation, and entrepreneurship as key driver of sustainable development. The aim is to establish a sound socio-political economic structure which fosters and preserves good society, good politics, and good economy with responsibility towards the future generation. Most recently, on 19 February, Parliament unanimously adopted a resolution adopting the 2013 agenda as our national development agenda. Thus, Pakistan is perhaps the first country to demonstrate and mobilize political support and ownership in line with our development objectives and to pursue our aspiration to an upper middle income country by 2013. We have accorded priority poverty eradication and hunger, universal access to health services, education, modern energy services, clean water and sanitation. At the national level, a SDGs monitoring and coordination unit has been enacted to plan, supervise and monitor the implementation through guidance, coordination and integration mechanism. The 7 pillars of Vision 2025 documents are strongly interlinked and each of them finds resonance with one or more of the SDGs. For example, pillars of Vision 2025, growth, governance, security, entrepreneurship, knowledge, economy, and connectivity. SDGs are, which is linked with these goals, poverty, health, education, gender. Number 2, zero hunger, water security, energy security, urban. Foster innovation, 4 EDUs, global partnership. The targets set under SDGs and as envisaged in the present government's Vision 2025, no doubt are very high and surmounting, but we are sure that the qualified and capable human, well backed up by the political will of this government, Pakistan would make landmark achievements in coming time periods. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Let me now turn to our second panelist, Lakshman Senivirathan. He's a professor, but he has recently joined the Ministry of Science and Technology. Sri Lanka's vision to become a scientifically and technologically advanced country by the year 2020 is commendable, and I know that you have a very good roadmap for it. It would be useful to hear how Sri Lanka is hoping to translate their vision and how or what plans there are to integrate the 3 pillars of sustainable development, the economy, society, and the environment. So, Your Excellency, I hope you will respect 5 minutes time deadline. Thank you.
I will take 2 minutes of your time, Madam Executive Secretary. In Sri Lanka, we have selected 10 ministries: energy, housing, environment, water resource development, irrigation, agriculture and plantation, education. The plan is for these 10 ministries to work according to the scientific information given by our scientists to achieve their goals by 2020. Starting from now, the allocation of funds by the national budget will be based on this, taking into account they have to achieving the SDGs. That is priority number 1. Even awards will be given to these institutions if their plans are based on scientific research. And the second thing is, we have encouraged, Sri Lanka is a small nation and our market is small. We have to encourage the private sector yet. Government has given triple tax deductions for the private sector for R&D. If they collaborate with the government will give them triple tax deductions, and if the private sector do the R&D, and if that contributes to the national economy, they will still get the triple tax deductions. These are the basic 2 plans we have for achieving our goals by 2020. Thank you.
Very sharp incentive framework. Thank you for being within the time limit. Let me now turn to His Excellency Mr. Timur Suleimanov. Your institution, the EEC, represents a group of diverse set of countries, especially in terms of the STI capability. Can you share with us how STI is playing a role in the 3 dimensions of the sustainable development.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Executive Secretary. Well, it is true. We have 5 countries, and they're very different in terms of their economy set up, and of course their STI capabilities, both historical and current. The 2 key economies, the 2 bigger economies, Russian and Kazakh economy, as you probably know, are resource-oriented and resource-driven economies. So the problem of this resource curse or Dutch disease has always been there, and that of course stalled the innovation processes in these 2 countries. That is clearly understood by the governments, and of course all 5 countries have strategies, programs for their technological and innovative developments. They're trying to diversify away from the resource-based economy. Basically, I have the information for all of the 5 countries, and I could go and talk about it in length, but the toolbox, the toolkit is pretty much the same. It's tax deductions, it's subsidies from the government, it's various grants to the companies, state procurement, and things like that. So that is very important, and I think we need to go on and do that. We need to execute. But I would like to stop by on something that is often overlooked when we talk about science, technology, and innovation. I think it is very important that we have an adequate business climate. If we talk about innovation, it's not only the bigger firms like Toyota or I don't know. Tesla. We need to get the innovation across the all business types and all business sizes, and for that to happen, we have to have a stable business environment, and it has to do with stability of regulation, adequate fiscal regime, adequate technical regulations that provide for innovation, and things like that. Education is also key, and you cannot expect your companies to innovate if you don't have an adequate education of the people, because the ideas come from the people. They're not coming from computers or from machines or anything else. So education is key. And one of the often overlooked things is IP rights protection. And this is something that we're doing in the Commission. Of course, if you have invested so much time, money, and talent into developing something real, something innovative, you have to be sure that you will be provided, you will be granted this protection, and that you will not, your property, your IP property will not be stolen and reproduced in mass. So IP protection is very important, and I think making it easily accessible and low cost is one of the key areas where we could focus our efforts. And in the Commission, in the Eurasian region, we have the Eurasian Patent Organization, which up to now has issued about 22,000 Eurasian patents. And of course, what it results in is that you don't have to go in each country's patent office and pay fees in each country under different instructions and different time frames and things like that. You go to one entity, one institution, Eurasian Patent Office. You pay single fee. You get your expertise, and if it's good, then you have the protection in all of the countries that combine the bloc. So that is operational. We're doing something in similar in respect of trademarks as well, because trademarks is also important for the innovative industries. So this is something that, as I said, is often overlooked, and so maybe stepping on your next question, where we could focus our efforts, I think regional commercialization vehicles and regional IP protection offices and patent offices, trademark offices, that shorten the time and decrease the cost of getting your product, getting your IP property out there, I think it's key. Thank you.
Much for bringing in those additional insights. Let me now turn to our next panelist, His Excellency Dr. R. Chidambaram. India, of course, has a very rich history in supporting science and technological excellence, as well as supporting grassroots innovation and entrepreneurship. And before coming out here, we heard from you about the rural scene. How is India planning to address these three dimensions of sustainable development through SDI? Your Excellency, you have 5 minutes also.
Thank you, Mrs. Samsha Datta, Executive Secretary of ESCAP, for inviting me to this meeting. See, the technology needs for a large country like India range from space and nuclear to rural. So India needs both industrial and rural development. There are some STI interventions which can provide direct benefits, but frontier technologies like nuclear, space, nanoelectronics, the internet, and additive manufacturing, that is 3D printing, can also contribute significantly, directly and indirectly, to sustainable development. Take nuclear, for instance. Nuclear is, of course, power, and India is interested in a 3-stage nuclear power program, PSWRs, fast breeders, and thorium utilization. But nuclear applications go beyond power. Of the many applications the Department of Atomic Energy has done in India are related to food preservation and safety, diagnosis and treatment of cancer, radiotherapy, wide range of radiotherapy and nuclear medicine, and radiation processing for medical products, industrial products, and so on. Similarly, the space inputs for sustainable development. Using our launch vehicles, PSLV has a very stable launch vehicle. They even do commercial launches for other countries, 57 launches from 19 countries. But if you look at what are their inputs for sustainable development, they range from natural resources sensors, forest mapping, watershed development, and even potential fishing zones. They have an institute for ocean development which provides continuous data to fishermen for going which direction to go to get the best catch of fish. Similarly, we have a world-class center for nanoelectronics, both in the Institute of Science Bangalore and IIT Bombay. Of course, they are mostly related to electronics, but the sensors they make, nanosensors or MEMS they make, MEMS and NEMS. In healthcare, they are related to glycosylated hemoglobin sensor, intracranial pressure sensor, environment, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, NOx sensors. And in agriculture, apart from soil moisture sensor, they can also do pheromone detection-based sensors. So when you talk of high technology like space or nuclear or nanoelectronics, really you find that many of their outputs, many of their deliverables are related to sustainable development. That is why there is a great thrust in India to developing what are called university research parks for enhancing academia-industry interactions. The first university-based research park came up in IIT Madras. And university research park is a cluster of technology-based organizations that are located on or near a university campus in order to benefit from the university's knowledge base and ongoing research. Of course, we have other precursors like Society for Innovation in Development in Institute of Science Bangalore, Society for Innovation in Entrepreneurship in IIT Bombay and all that. The moment you are able to set up a university-based research park, then you find the number of patents they file goes up very, 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 very sharply. In the Startup India program of the Indian government, there is also a segment now on high-tech manufacturing startups, which we are encouraging to get people who are working in higher academic institutions to go and make startups, and what are the conditions under which you minimize the risk for them. Now, in the chain research, development, and delivery. Research, development, and delivery. In the case of industrial development, we need enhanced academia-industry interaction interfaces for both pre-competitive applied research and what I have called directed basic research. And it has to be done sector by sector. You cannot have one group of actions which suit all industries. For a micro, small, and medium industries, if there are in technologically homogeneous clusters, if they can be identified, and they can be identified in a large country like India, RDI support can be provided by proximate academic institutions. For rural technology, rural development, the problem really relates to rural technology delivery problem. And here there are many initiatives, one of them from our office on Rural Technology Action Group, through knowledge transfer, what is the Harvard guys call knowledge brokering and scaling of innovations. And sometimes where technology transfer does not work, what we are suggesting is concept transfer followed by re-innovation. Essentially, RootArg is an open platform innovation strategy. We have used it in many ways. For instance, I'll give you an extreme range isotope hydrology technique for recharging aquifers in the Himalayan region, in the Uttarakhand area, because water runs away downhill. And if they make the river water harvesting or rainwater harvesting ponds at the top, they don't know 3-4 months later will it end up in useful aquifers or will it go away to useless places. So we brought in the nuclear center to look at ratio of isotopes, oxygen isotopes, heavy hydrogen, radioactive tritium and all that. And they said you put your subsurface dikes at these points, the water recharge will go up, and it didn't happen. Average, it has gone up by 3 times. It is being replicated in many places. And on the other hand, we have done, the Vaishno Devi temple, which is a very holy place for Hindus in Jammu and Kashmir, and there are porters who carry pilgrims. So we have brought in the IIT Bombay to redesign, to make it lighter, and we brought in the National Institute of Technology and Industrial Engineering in order to take care of the occupational health of the porters. Now, there has been mention of environment. The International Panel on Climate Change talks about energy security and climate change. Of course, energy security and climate change are the two of the greatest challenges in the 21st century. And both of them are incorporated in the Human Development Index, which is based very strongly on per capita electricity consumption. And here I think per capita greenhouse gas emissions is the right parameter to estimate the contribution of a country to global warming. And India's cumulative emissions only about 3%. But whereas, as our minister has said in the Paris UNFCCC summit, it will lower the greenhouse gas emission intensity of GDP by 33 to 35% by 2030. So renewable energy, nuclear energy, which are zero greenhouse gas emission technologies. But even if you burn coal, if you are able to go to advanced ultra supercritical thermal plant, nobody has built such a plant yet, where the temperature can be raised to 700 plus, 700, 720. You can increase the efficiency and make sure that the amount of greenhouse gas emission per megawatt hour of power production can be brought down. That is probably the way to go. So I think, thank you, Dr.
Thank you. You really made a breakthrough on the question of the integration of the two things by very concrete examples. We very much appreciate that, because in the age of sustainable development, what is important is to use a particular technology or investments in a particular industry to serve the multiple sectors' demands as we go forward. And thank you for those very illustrative examples. Let me now turn to His Excellency Mr. Robert Haryo Yan. Armenia has made impressive gains in recent years through the strengthening of innovation capability and supporting entrepreneurship driven by the Ministry of Economy. How are you ensuring that these gains benefit society and environment?
Thank you, Your Excellency, for this opportunity to talk about the sector of ICT or technology sector of Armenia. You are right, actually, we're trying to focus on this sector, and it has also some idea under it. So the technology sector is one of a promising sectors which was declared by the government of Armenia as a priority sector for development yet back in 2000. Today, this is one of the fastest growing sectors of the economy, about almost 20% each year, which provides a high yield and is attractive for foreign investments. Currently, there are multiple projects being implemented in cooperation with local and transnational companies, which is active in ITC and high-tech sectors. And also, we're trying to train high-quality professionals and improve the professional skills of the existing staff, supporting innovative ideas, entrepreneurship, startup companies, and job creation, which means involving new investments, increasing exports, and promoting also regional development. There are more than 9 laboratories and academic centers operating on a public-private partnership framework, including Microsoft Innovation Center of Armenia, Armenian Indian Center of Excellence, MLab ECA Mobile Applications Regional Laboratory, and Armenian National Engineering Laboratory. The IT sales representations also we created based in Silicon Valley, which enables Armenian businesses in IT sector to attract foreign orders. One of the most important incentives of promotion was the government's initiative to establish the Venture Fund in 2013, which focuses on IT startup companies and incubation of innovative ideas. Additionally, each year a number of competitions are organized. Under these initiatives, new startup companies are being established and jobs created. The legislative initiatives are also in place to support startup companies in the IT industry, which proposes startup businesses in the IT sector to provide a variety of benefits. In particular, the corporate tax for startup companies that were registered due to the law is 0%, and the income tax is 10% for private entrepreneurs, and zero income tax rate applies for all of them. So, the implementation of these benefits will significantly, and we believe in this, boost investments in human capital and the creation of added value in the economy, which in turn will contribute to the Armenian IT industry competitiveness in the region. Forward-looking initiatives are implemented to establish the state-of-the-art innovative infrastructure, and there are already success stories in this field, namely the technology centers and the mobile solutions lab creation in secondary cities of Armenia. Moreover, the government aims to establish an engineering city, which intending to build a modern infrastructure to promote investments in the field of engineering and provide complex technology solutions for local and international markets. In order to extend international cooperation, to raise public awareness about the achievements in the sector, major industry events are traditionally organized via state support. We have several of them, but I would like to mention some of it, such as Digitech Business Forum, Digitech Information, Telecommunications and High-Tech Industry Annual International Exhibition, and also Armtech Armenia's high-tech industry business conferences, which is we doing in Silicon Valley in USA. So this is really one of the main sectors we put emphasis on this from the perspective of government support, and actually we think that this is also one of our future development of, economic development sectors for Armenia. So once again, thank you very much for this opportunity to talk about the IT and ICT sector in Armenia. And I hope that with your support, we will contribute or we will develop the cooperation within these sectors. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we're going to go for a second round of questions, and I'd like everybody to limit their interventions to about 4 minutes, because I'd like to open the floor for questions after that. Everybody will answer one question. You all know that ESCAP has recently got into the SDI business, which is a very important means of implementation of Sustainable Development Agenda 2030. And there has been a reconstitution of the ICT committee to expand its mandate to include also science, technology, and innovation. And my colleagues that are responsible for it are now preparing themselves for this intergovernmental committee, and that will take place in October. Of course, we would like this regional platform to serve as a knowledge-sharing platform, but also to facilitate collaboration, innovation, and of course look at means of how you catalyze SDI and how do you really share the benefits of R&D in one set of countries which has got pretty high R&D, and how can you really have positive spillovers of that to the other set of countries. So I think what would be very useful to hear from all of you is what would be an effective approach from your perspective for our region. How can the region serve as a more South-South collaborator to work together to benefit the region more collectively and get more mileage out of the investments within the region, but also how do you zero in to sharing the benefits of the technology. So with this, let me start with His Excellency, the Minister from Pakistan, to share his thoughts, and then we will go in the same order as we did earlier. Over to you, Mr. Minister.
Thank you. In my opinion, we need to have an integrated approach for which the countries of region may adopt to avoid duplication of efforts so that human and financial resources are not wasted, spread too thinly. And the countries in the region may select different areas of research and development to focus on based upon. A result of such solution of the problems obtained by one country of the region may be shared with other countries so that the others can adopt it for finding solution of their own problems. In a nutshell, I would like to sum up the things by suggesting that understanding the needs of the time, the ESCAP should evolve a system, help countries to opt the approach of cooperation, than to compete or raise conflicts. The regional cooperation is no more an option, but it is imperative for the integrated global growth. ESCAP can become the knowledge-sharing platform for development of specific links between the various global and national efforts. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Your Excellency. You made up for the time. Appreciate very much. Thank you. Over to you.
Well, Madam Secretary,
Your
in a
Excellency.
nutshell, you see, regional cooperation, as we all know, extremely important. So, In my opinion, an institution like ESCAP should take the leadership of combining all these forces, joining these countries, and then distributing the knowledge to the other nations. That is what you should do, in my opinion, so that, we all join hands with ESCAP. Simple that.
Solve the problem of the world. Can I turn to you, please, Your Excellency?
Thank you. Well, I did mention the IP protection side of things, and I think it is important, and we, as a region and ESCAP as an organization, probably need to look into the regional tools and instruments of IP protection. How do you get your product to the market with the least possible cost, the fastest possible time, and then how do you spread this protection among the countries so you don't have to spend time and money going country by country by country. So that's one thing. Then of course it's a double-edged sword, and we need to be very careful not to preserve the technological drawbacks of some countries and technological prowess of the others. And so expertise and analysis of IP protection legislation in various countries and IP protection clauses in various trade agreements and investment agreements is very important, so that the investor is adequately protected, but not overly protected, so that no one can ever benefit from the product other than by using it. So you cannot copy it, you cannot copy part of it, the technological process. That's, as I said, it's a double-edged sword. It's a very fine balance. But I think ESCAP should be called upon to try and strike it, and on a systemic basis. Maybe a recommendation for just typical clauses on IP protection rights in investment treaties in the region, like a model clause for IP on IP in regional investment and trade deals could be developed here. And of course, if we talk about a more hands-on approach, probably a regional fund that would finance some of the startups and some of the technologies that cross borders in ESCAP region is nice. So it's not only national, but if someone comes up with an idea that can connect people in more than one country, maybe a fund such as the one that I'm thinking about could finance it. So it's a hands-on, not just legislation, not just regulatory side of things, but financial side of things. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me turn to Professor Chidambaram with the same question, please.
Thank you. I think, Ms. Chairperson, you have raised two interesting issues in the second round of questions: sharing of knowledge, and then, of course, what would be your one concrete recommendation? Now, sharing of knowledge has to be balanced with demand for knowledge, that specific kind of knowledge. In the meeting of World Science Advisors we had in Auckland a couple of years back, there was a consensus in the meeting: there is no single prescription for scientific advice to the government. Similarly, in the UNIDO's Industrial Development Report 2016, and I quote from it, "Pooling financial and research resources internationally in a global knowledge base can contribute much to building technological capabilities for inclusive and sustainable industrialization." But as Mr. Sulaimanov said, this is an excellent idea, but it is inhibited by intellectual property right issues. Now, there is a very good report, what is called the thematic think piece from the UN task team, which is a number of United Nations bodies, including UNCTAD, UNESCO, UNFCCC, UNIDO, and so on. It is, this report is on post-2015 UN Development Agenda on STI for Sustainable Development. And I quote from that, and it says, innovation-led growth is no longer the prerogative of the high-income countries, unquote. So, collaboration with innovation, in my opinion, is possible only if the principle of equity, which is there in the Brundtland report, and if you read the discussions in the Rio 2012, is continuously expanded to cover all emerging dimensions of equity. And if you ask me for one suggestion, I will say, start with saying e-connectivity, electronic connectivity is a great equalizer, and innovations should be built around it. We have, and e-connectivity is very good for inclusivity and knowledge sharing. We have, for example, our own national knowledge network, which is a multi-tens of gigabit per second optical fiber backbone network connecting 1,600 knowledge institutions in the country. This is a research and education network. And you have from the European side, European really sponsored what is called Trans-Eurasian Net, TN, they call it TN Network 4, which is based in Singapore and to some extent in South Korea. Then we are connected. Indian National Knowledge Network is connected to the European Union grid, is in the process of being connected to Internet too. And we shall be soon be connecting with the ARIANs of Bhutan, Bangladesh, and Nepal. The Honorable Prime Minister of India is keen on this connectivity to SAARC nations, which is a subgroup of ESCAP, and which should result in research and innovation collaboration. When you talk about REN, research and education network, and of course higher education is part of this, and it leads to sharing of resources among user communities. And what we have done is, within this network, you can create grids of people who are working in a very specified area, grid for brain research. All those working on Alzheimer's or dementia or maybe stroke, to the extent they want to share their data, MRI images data. Of course, the scientist has to decide. So we have created a brain research grid. We have a grid for climate science. We have a grid for astrophysics, big data astrophysics, big data IL, which is being developed. So, Dr. Akhtar, if you ask me what would be your one concrete recommendation for ESCAP in this role, I would say better electronic connectivity or better connectivity among the research and education networks in the ESCAP member states. For example, one could start with, because environment seems to be one of your major concerns, an ESCAP grid on climate science among the RENs of Asia and the Pacific states could be considered for exchange of information and knowledge to build better models for climate change and for better weather forecasting. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Once again, very concrete recommendations. Without losing time, let me turn to our final panelist with the same question. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Actually, I think all our distinguished panelists suggested very interesting ideas that can become an agenda for ESCAP. But I would like to make some small statements on our understanding why it is important and why it is needed. Actually, we're here for the session of Economic and Social Commission, and actually we here all of us understand the main issue for the as base of economic development is the integration. And we should understand that integration needs increase of competitiveness of the countries, because countries should become competitive in order to cooperate with each other. And increase of competitiveness needs increase of productivity. And we understand that increase of productivity means that we need new technologies and we need innovation. So supporting of science and technology innovations means supporting integration. We should also remember that STI is the sector that allows easily avoid being landlocked, being away of world centers, being poor. That's why I think that the common goal of being creative and support the progress of our planet should be the base of foreign policies of all the countries. So, Your Excellency, we welcome the initiative of Your Excellency to create or to emphasize this sector additionally in the framework of ESCAP. And actually, as we know, you created a new separate group or department which is dealing with these issues. So we greatly welcome this initiative, and I would like to state also Armenia's readiness and willingness to support this movement and actually to share with you the knowledge and experience that we have, or to contribute somehow to the new initiative that you did. Thank you very much.
Thank you for all those solid and concrete suggestions. And I think this paves the way for us to now move to the floor. Given that we have some time, I'd like to collect about 3 to 4 questions. Please identify yourself and let me know who you want to direct the question, or if you have a general question, then all panel members can attempt to answer within the area that they would like to answer. We will also collect some questions from the Twitter, and I presume there is some mechanism to do so. So let me open the floor first. Please raise your flag. Okay, I think India. Your Excellency, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Executive Secretary. The question, in fact, is addressed to you. You have spoken of South-South cooperation for harnessing science and technology for inclusive and sustainable development in Asia and the Pacific. South-South cooperation is certainly important, and we in India attach the greatest importance to it. However, given the diversity in the members and associate members of ESCAP, perhaps we should also look at North-South cooperation. In that context, it would be interesting to know if ESCAP is doing anything to facilitate transfer of technology from its northern members to its southern ones. The areas of environmentally sustainable technologies, clean energy, energy efficiency, and renewables are areas that come to mind. Of course, when we speak of ESCAP playing the role of a facilitator, we mean going beyond market mechanisms. While answering my question, Madam Executive Secretary, you may also like to comment on the willingness of developed countries to share such technologies on concessional terms, which means going beyond intellectual property rights. I must acknowledge that Dr. Chidambaram has also alluded to these issues in his intervention. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, I'm caught in the trap of my own request, but we'll come back to an answer on that. Let me open the floor further to other questions. Allow PDR, delegate, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Executive Secretary, panelists. I just would like to have a comment on the science and technology. I must start thinking that science and technology is needed for human being right now. Anything, any performance without science and technology. So another thing, we understand that each country we have capability, we have potential. Different, as I can say that we have a gap between among our countries. So as the ESCAP is the important organ in the region, so in the future, I think I would like to request the ESCAP as the organ important in the region, how to promote or how to transfer science and technology from the developed country to lack of technology country is like Laos in the future. So this I would like to request, special request to you, Madam the Moderator, because right now we need to have, or we have to promote technology in among our country. So thank you, Madam Moderator.
Any other colleagues who may? Where is that? Okay, I can't read the flag, but can you identify yourself, please?
PTC.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam. We are talking about science, technology, and innovation. And the common goal in front of us is to control global environmental temperatures to 1.5 degrees Celsius. For this achievement, we have to control emissions up to substantial limits. And among them, carbon capture is the major task. I would like to request ESCAP to lead in this research, to develop some sort of research network in the region to control carbon emissions and to develop technology sharing with the countries which are lacking in resources. Thank you.
One more question, if there is any from the floor. Okay, if none, are there any questions from the Twitter? And they better be to the panelist and not to me. I don't have all the answers, but they have come. For the panel. Okay. Okay, I've been assured this is for the panelists. So the first question, scientists and technologists have traditionally been the source of innovation. How can governments support entrepreneurs to innovate for sustainable development? Number one question from the Twitter. Second, how can governments ensure that the very poorest also reap the benefits of technology? Number three question from the Twitter. How can we harness all members of society to participate in open innovation? With this, I will open the floor now to the panelists, and I will start with our delegate from Armenia, the panelist. Robert, over to you. Of course, I'll come to the questions that were raised to me as well. So if you can take up any of the questions, either from the floor or from the Twitter.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I'll be happy to repeat any questions because I've taken a record of them.
As I understand, I mean, the main idea of the question is to understand how the government can support the the creation of the innovation infrastructures and something like that, right? So this was from the Twitter.
Scientists and technologists
Okay.
have traditionally been the source of innovation. How can governments support entrepreneurs to innovate for sustainable development? That was the first Twitter question.
So I think that in the government policy, the support of this sector should be one of the main key issues. And actually, I think here the government should use a wide range of the instruments, not only one or two. And the main idea here also to connect the scientists and technologists with the private sector. and the private sector should be the leading part. I mean, like, should create an orders for the scientists and technologists, because they understand the market, they understand the issue of the commercialization of the, let's say, innovation, so they can become part of, I mean, the main, let's say, vehicle for new innovation and technologies. And in this case, the government should create the infrastructure, should create the environment for the good cooperation between scientists, academia, I mean, the scientists and private sector. It can be done in different ways, let's say, including also some electronic-based, some database or something, cooperation, or even having some, let's say, meetings, etc., etc. Also providing some incentives in terms of the taxes, if you are spending some money for the research and development in the private companies, etc. So this is really a wide range of the instruments that government can use, and I think we should not avoid any of them.
Okay. So, conducive policy environment to leverage private sector for STI. Let me ask Professor Chidambaram. India has a good track record in this. How can governments ensure that the very poorest also reap the benefits of technology? I think you've done quite a bit on this, and you talked about it.
See, I agree with what Dr. Robert Harutyan has said, that tax incentives are very much necessary. And as far as there are two kinds of things, you know, industrial development, rural development. And in rural development, all scientists want to help in rural development. But then their karma is not to go and stay with them, then this work is affected. So one of the mechanisms is to work with voluntary organizations led by scientists, but centered in some of our leading institutions. This is what we do, because a scientist, for whatever reason, personal, emotional, whatever reason, decides to settle in rural India, many examples of that, then he knows where is the demand. And he can talk my language, because my weakness is grassroots intervention, but my strength is my connectivity to knowledge institutions. And this has worked, and this is a slow progress, because, you know, this is what I say, technology transfer does not work very well in rural development. Because in 50, 100 kilometers, the local skills, the local raw materials, and even the local demands change. So that is why I have been recommending not technology transfer, but of course this holds even more strongly for getting technology from abroad. Concept transfer followed by re-innovation, using local skills, local raw materials, and there are enough smart people in that area who can turn it around. Because there are occasions in which the cost of technology transfer may exceed the benefit, the perceived benefit from that technology. Madam, if you give me 2 more minutes, I can make one more comment.
Please, on any questions.
You know, more generally, the developing countries are changing. And I have always said that the sustainable development goals are not static goals, but they should change as countries progress, as inevitably they will. Now, in a developed country, as far as industrial development is concerned, there is a thermodynamic equilibrium between knowledge in the academic system and the knowledge which has been transferred to industry. Academic system and the two are very close to one another. That's why you go to Stanford or MIT or Caltech, you find industry guys waiting to take technology from these people. In many areas in India, technology is at that level. Once you become globally competitive, that is when academia-industry interaction begins to get stronger. If you are much lower down in any technology, technology transfer is an easier option. And if you take technology, they give you yesterday's technology, and you can never develop tomorrow's technology. So this is a problem for the developing countries. But as countries progress, under all the UN bodies, including yours, I'm sure the situation will change with time. And it's beginning to happen in India. More and more industries are coming, but you have to do it sector by sector. We have done it for pre-competitive applied research in the automotive sector. in the machine tool sector, in the electronics hardware sector. Thank you, madam.
Thank you. Can we turn to you, please, Timur?
Thank you. I think
Maybe one question particularly I'd love to hear from you. How can we harness all members of society to participate in open innovation?
Okay, I was actually going to try
You want to avoid that?
No, I like the, I'll try to answer that one as well.
Please,
but I like the question from the floor that came from India.
Yes.
About the North-South cooperation. And then the question was, there was a similar question from PDC, I think, and it is really important. I was going to touch it in my own intervention, in my own speech. So it's, okay, in all the trade agreements, trade investment agreements, what we saw over time is that they focused on, first they focused on tariff measures, then non-tariff measures, customs clearance, then we added intellectual property, then we added labor standards, then we added ecological standards and things like that. So we see that over time, as the economies of the globe compete with each other, the countries try to go deeper into the domestic regulation so that there is an even playing field as they think. So I guess I'm not saying this, but maybe this is something that we all should think about. Maybe some of the clauses that oblige the investor or a trade partner to transfer technology, especially if the trade partner is a developed country, is a northern country, and the second one is a developing country, maybe some of the clauses that would require over time transfer of technologies, not require, maybe, I don't know, motivate, stimulate transfer of technologies, if they become standard in modern trade policy, maybe this is something to think about. I know it's very difficult to digest at the moment, but I think 20 years ago, to digest that someone will be, in a trade pact, we will be focusing on labor law or ecological standards, it was equally difficult to digest. So maybe in the 21st century, transfer of technologies can become a standard clause in any investment treaty. Let's think about it, because otherwise, in 10 years' time, you will, I guess, report pretty much the same picture, that your region, our region, accounts for 43% of global R&D expenditures, but the bulk of it, 90%, comes from the 5 countries, and we all know what those countries are, and nothing will change if something is not done on a more consolidated basis. If you talk country by country, it is very difficult to force or stimulate or motivate a developed country to transfer anything to a developing country. So maybe a global effort or a regional effort is required. And I think that partially answers the question that you wanted me to ask first, answer first. That will, if we have something like that, that will help the developing countries, and then of course it will be more inclusive for developing countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Rana, would you like to add something to any of the questions?
Yes,
answers?
I think the panelists already given the answers of 3 questions, but I think the last question is difficult amongst the 3 questions. And first question, you also mentioned about conducive policies of the government, where entrepreneurs are get benefit from scientists and researchers. We must create some structure where entrepreneur can get benefit, or they can get solutions from their problems from scientists and researchers. And some tax incentives must be given to the entrepreneurs so that can get benefit from the scientists. Number 2, yes, transfer technology to those countries which those who don't have the technologies and resources. So through this platform, your madam from your platform, ESCAP, this can be managed, transfer technology to poor countries. The last one, I think the technology which now we have globally, every member of the society can get a benefit from that product. But the common facility we can get the benefit we can give to the common member of the society is to provide them clean water, hygienic food, and other usable products, common usable products, which is used by every citizen of the society. Thank you.
Okay, let me turn to our finally.
I just want to mention a couple of things. Number one is that giving tax incentives, I mentioned earlier,
Yes.
what we are doing in our country, that we have started to do it. Oh, Madam, I had the opportunity of opening this your ESCAP high-level meeting on space application for drought monitoring and early warning in Colombo last month. Now, from that, we got expert knowledge from our neighboring countries. We must be very thankful to them. 8 ministries in our countries, Sri Lanka and agriculture, irrigation, all these ministries are using the satellite technology, all those things. What I'm going to ask you is, we are talking about intellectual properties. I know most of the delegates will not agree with me, but what's the point of keeping this intellectual property if it is not going to be benefited to the society? See? And maybe country from country to it, they may not transfer it or given it. But if you take the basic things for smaller countries, if the technology can be transferred, let's see, take the paddy production. If you can introduce the technology to cut down the cost of production, minimum use of pesticides, minimum use of agrochemicals, minimum use of fertilizer, and get the maximum yield. So that, most of the countries has these technologies. That is where my earlier request comes in again. An organization like ESCAP has to get involved to help these other nations to get these technologies, and that will help millions of farmers in these countries. Millions will be benefited with these technologies. Now, countries like Sri Lanka, we don't need space technology, but we'll be benefited from the satellites because we know what's going to happen in the future, at least in the near future. So we are prepared. So likewise, the most important coordination job, in my opinion, like I said earlier, is kept to do this coordination with all the other countries. So that will help the other nations the requirements from the other nations will be fulfilled. Not everything, the basic things.
Sir, all the remaining questions.
No. I think the questions on ESCAP you must answer.
Yes, I will.
I'm only making one comment. When, the Indian ambassador said north-south, it is not geography. It is developed and developing. And when you talk about economic development, doesn't mean economically developed country is technologically advanced in all fields. Very interesting point made by Dr. Seniviratne. So we have to factor this in. Scientific collaboration takes place between 2 countries, between 2 individuals who respect each other, who have the demand. This is when I have seen when technology collaboration takes place. So this is a matrix here. You may be economically developed, but there are technologies, you may not be global leaders. There may be others who are trying to come up. I think ESCAP may have to factor this in when you look for technological cooperation, knowledge transfer, collaboration. Collaborative innovation was the theme of the World Economic Forum meeting in Davos in 2008. And I was there as a member of the faculty. And there I mentioned about what I call altruistic collaborative innovation. Altruistic. They don't look for IPR value for that. Best example of that is the World Wide Web. WWW was developed by CERN and made available to, that is the Center for European Nuclear Research in Geneva. That was made available to everybody. And look at this, WWW is everywhere. We need more such examples for when we consider transfer of tech. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I had one or two sentences.
No, you're most welcome to take the floor again. I just wanted to say it has been a rich panel discussion, but before I go on to summarizing all this very briefly, let me take on the question raised by His Excellency Ambassador of India. I think he knows the answer very well, having been on the platform and a very experienced diplomat of United Nations. But let me say that breakthrough in this area is always difficult in a deeper and a broader context. But I think within ESCAP, one area that I think my team is very proud of is the subject of disaster risk resilience as well as the early warning signals, where as has been rightly pointed out by Professor Chidambaram, where some of the developed countries of Asia have tried to provide support for satellite imaging to share with, and their space agencies have been very generous in providing satellite imaging to countries that are vulnerable and do need timely information. We are also working on trying to nurture more collaboration for both droughts and floods in this area, with the collaboration of the relatively more developed space agencies. Of course, we have been trying to explore with the European institutions too. As you can imagine, it takes time to penetrate there. Barring that, I think we are making a start in trying to think through how to get into really the climate change business. Climate change has not also been a real subject in terms of ESCAP's expertise, but now given the huge impetus provided by the Paris Agreement and also by the demands coming from our member states, we are trying to think through, first of all, on how to develop knowledge portal or analysis for the advancements in renewable energy and also the state of development of Asia Pacific in adopting renewable energy. I think assessments are quite critical as a starting point, and while there are such assessments for the renewable energy for different other regions, it isn't available to date for Asia Pacific in a comprehensive manner. I have to say that there are also a lot of market opportunities that the private providers are offering in the more developed part, and we really need to leverage partnerships with them. I think this is definitely a very good question, and it's a provocative question. It challenges ESCAP, and we will definitely spend time deliberating on this. I also heard the request on the carbon capture research. We are, as I said, in the business of trying to reflect now on the need for which knowledge portals do we need to really develop, which could really help in the STI frontier in terms of the knowledge sharing. Of course, with ESCAP's limited resources, we are thinking more as a starting point for developing links to make available the right knowledge from the right platforms that can be brought together. So that's my response to it. I have to also mention a few other points in how we adapt technology from advanced countries to the projects in our region is also a very important area in which we are working. For instance, when we talk about holistic and seamless connectivity, we are talking about really not just transport connectivity and energy connectivity in a plain vanilla sense, but how do you really deploy IT solutions in that connectivity in a sustainable manner. We are also talking about Asia-Pacific Information Superhighway, which will allow us to leverage what was talked about in terms of electronic sharing of information, because once you have high capacity broadband width through the optic network systems, we will be able to penetrate more faster cross-border. So those are implicit. Another area for which a resolution has been discussed by our member states is really paperless trading, use of electronic mechanism to be able to have a cross-border trade. I can go on with some examples like that, but I do appreciate the very penetrating question of His Excellency Ambassador from India, and we promise to look into it and keep him informed. But he knows very well that we have APCTT in India, our host of the Asia-Pacific Technology Transfer, and we are working with the Indian government to strengthen that regional institute, and hopefully if that is done, it can provide an important platform for North-South exchanges. It has done that in the past, and it can be really a very important established institutes, and I would very much count on Professor Chidambaram's support and intellectual input in how we harness that institute to be the real platform for technology transfer where we are dealing with these questions. Now, I do know that we are almost up to the time, but let me try to reflect on what has been said in a very brief manner. What I was very impressed with what we see out here, we have a landlocked developing country, we have a large populated country, India, that has done it all in different ways. We have middle income countries on my right, and of course we have a regional bloc that brings collective. So we have a fairly diversified set of thought process feeding into this panel. What we have heard is the use of tax incentives, whether it's tax deductibility or holidays or partnerships with private sector, use of an appropriate incentive instrument. And I do think, as a person who has dabbled in tax issues quite a bit on public finances, that we really need to have a dedicated discussion and a dedicated report to figure out how do you really develop the right kind of tax incentives, because I actually do not like a lot of tax incentives. We set up these incentives, but we don't get the intended impact. We do get the leakages in the tax revenue because of them. So I do think that we should take on board that advice and see which tax incentives have made a difference and how do you cut the opportunities for revenue leakages through that. The third, what we have heard, is integration of the three dimensions with very concrete examples. And I'm not going to repeat what has been said, but I think we need to definitely capture those unique ways through which the nuclear industry, IT industry, private sector is working on 3 dimensions, but what are the transmitting mechanism, as Professor has pointed out, because the scientists are not going to go to the rural areas, but perhaps what we need is a good alliance, except if the scientists have a very strong soul, they will go to the rural areas. But we do want to find what would be the spillover and transmission mechanisms for good 3D integration that we've been talking about. Fourth is IT startups. And other startups, and how can venture funds facilitate and catalyze this, is what I heard. We heard from Minister Rana about the benefits or how higher education is being built up to raise the human capital and how it can develop the science capacities and capabilities in the country. I think this is a subject that requires a lot of more thought. Everybody has almost talked about the adequate policy, legal, and regulatory regime, but I think we need to define that, what are the fundamentals that we need to have in there. There has been talk about predictable IP regime, the most complex subject, and we know from our own experience working in different countries that investment treaties are real heavens for blocking the predictability in IP regimes and stopping the transfer of IP regimes rather than facilitating them. And of course, there is a new frontier there, but let me simply say that ESCAP is undertaking a review of the investment regimes in different countries in our trade and investment division, and hopefully that will penetrate in that question. Regional cooperation and imperative. Totally agree, ESCAP is indeed a platform, and this is just the first starting point, but we will definitely have much more. I think one very penetrating point was was mentioned by one of our panelists about the Dutch disease of the oil industry, which has definitely prevented investments into research and development, because it's fed, most of the foreign inflows have gone into oil and gas industry rather than flow into real investments into R&D sharing and all that. Clearly, with the oil price decline, I hope we have a more conducive environment, but governments need to be encouraged to prevent a repetition of the FDI flows in that. Electronic connectivity was talked about very comprehensively, and how new technologies, how we can have pooling of the policies to promote new technologies. Of course, the big question is how do we move from South-South collaboration to North-South collaboration to TAP. So I think we have enough ammunition out there, enough ideas on how to carry forward our STI thought process at a regional level platform to take forward our work in ESCAP to benefit you all. And we count on your support, and I will solicit some of you in our advisory panel. We do have a 10-member advisory panel, and we will invite some of you to come and support the dialogue and provide your recommendations and proposals on how to move forward. I would like to thank all the panelists, and everybody will agree that this was a very stimulating session. I, of course, have very concrete examples out here, but of course this is being recorded session, so we can pull more meat out of this panel. In conclusion, I'd like to invite a hand of applause, of appreciation for the rich exchange we have had in this panel. Thank you. Very short.
Shall we? Yes, we have to go ahead. We are running a bit late. I would like to
Thank you. I would like to thank Ms. Shamshad Akhtar, the Under Secretary General of the United Nations and as Executive Secretary of ESCAP, for and our distinguished panelists for very thought-provoking and insightful discussion. Thank you too to the audience, both here and in various other cities, for your participation. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, we shall now continue with statements from delegations wishing to speak on the agenda item 7 alpha, policy issues for the Asia-Pacific region, the key challenges to inclusive and sustainable economic and social development in Asia and the Pacific. I would like to remind all speakers to help maintain the discipline of the 5-minute time allocation so that all delegations may have enough time to deliver their statements. In case delegations have longer statements, they may deliver a summary, while the full text can be shared through the Commission website. The first speaker on my list this afternoon is Pakistan. We have His Excellency Mr. Rana Tanvir Hussain, the Federal Minister for Science and Technology. Thank you, Excellency. You have the floor.
Mr. Chairman, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, let me first of all congratulate Mr. Chairman and all participating ministers as vice chairs for their successful election to the 72nd session of United Nations ESCAP. I am confident that under your able stewardship, the session will successfully complete its deliberations. I wish to assure full cooperation and support of my delegation in this regard. I also appreciate the Secretariat for their hard work and preparation of useful documents for this session. I feel privileged to be part of this August gathering of ministerial meeting and hope to gain a lot by mutual sharing of our experience and learning. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development was adopted unanimously in 2015 by all member countries of the United Nations and launched in January 2016. The new agenda presents a central vision for sustainable development in all of its 3 dimensions: economic, social, and environmental, and calls to begin efforts to achieve 17 SDGs and 160 targets over the next 15 years. The Commission has rightly foresighted that business as usual will not be an option if the ambitions of transformative 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development are to be met. New and transformative approaches such as using science, technology and innovation identified as mean for implementation will play a key role in this regard. Effective alignment and reinforcement of STI through conducive policies and legal and regulatory frameworks will help attracting investments, develop business and creating knowledge societies. The application of science and technology in building upon local knowledge, skills and materials are central in facilitating the socio-economic progress, bridging the development gap between the technological advanced and the developing countries, and alleviating poverty can contribute to provide a more equitable and sustainable future. The developing countries, however, face multiple impediments such as lack of human capital or skilled manpower, lack of coordination and ineffective policies, climate challenges and natural disasters, global economic crisis, governance and political instability, limited STI approach and lack of knowledge economies, little financing opportunities. Mr. Chairman, Pakistan attaches high priority to the implementation of 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and SDGs. Pakistan is perhaps the first country to formalize broad political support for the SDGs through adoption of a unanimous resolution in National Assembly of Pakistan on 19th February 2016. At the federal level, an SDGs monitoring and coordination unit is being established to serve as national coordinating entity. The present government's vision 2025 provides a comprehensive national long-term strategy for achieving inclusive growth and sustainable development. By placing the people at its core, the vision provides a clear synthesis between Pakistan's development needs and the imperative of achieving inclusive growth and benefiting our society. The vision builds on 7 pillars, namely human and social capital, sustained indigenous and inclusive growth, democratic governance and institutional reform, energy, food and water security, private sector-led growth, knowledge economy, and regional connectivity. These 7 pillars of the Vision 2025 document are strongly interlinked, and each of them finds resonance with one or more of the SDGs. The Ministry of Science and Technology in Pakistan is the national focal point entrusted with developing STI policies and strategies and coordination at federal and provincial levels, including with relevant stakeholders and international partners. A National Research Agenda 2016 have been prepared in line with the Vision 2025 to align the national research and development and innovation activities with the global SDGs in national context. The National Research Agenda identifies 14 priority areas vital for national growth and development, prepared in consultation with a large number of stakeholders, including scientists, engineers, researchers, industrialists, and policymakers. Inclusion of the sustainability perspective in the economic and development thinking has been the overarching consideration. It puts people first and aims to develop human capital, achieve sustained and inclusive growth, focus on governance and institutions, ensure energy, water and food security, modernize transportation infrastructure, enhanced greater regional connectivity, and promote public-private partnership. In information and communication technologies, Pakistan has been a leading country. The IT industry is regarded as a successful sector of Pakistan economy as it contributed rupees 126.30 billion to exchequer in 2014. IT investment in Pakistan have also increased has to $1.5 billion approximately, as the sector is expanding and generating new jobs with emergence of new technologies in ICT. Broadband penetration rate increased from 3% to 15%, and IT remittances have grown up to 41% as compared to the previous years. Mobile broadband services are now available across 200 cities in the country. A prevention of electronic crimes bill is being promulgated to curb cyber and electronic crimes. Through government's Universal Service Fund efforts, are being made to minimize the information and communication gap between rural and urban communities. Mr. Chairman, it is encouraging to note that the Asia Pacific share of world expenditure on research and development rose from 36% in 2007 to 44% in 2013. It has acquired some STI competence and capability. However, these have been thus far harnessed by few countries only. Putting in place action-oriented STI policies aligned to development strategies, creation of an enabling environment for STI, and full integration of the three dimensions into STI policy at regional and national level are imperative to meet SDGs. United Nations ESCAP being the largest UN body serving the Asia Pacific region and its relevant committee on STI can therefore play a meaningful role by providing a platform to member states for knowledge sharing, exchange of best practices, capacity building, and helping to devise appropriate policies on STI. Nevertheless, the regional and global cooperation is critical for scientific and technological advancement, keeping in mind capacities of developing countries. There is a need to move beyond the actions of individual states and more towards global and regional partnership bound by the principles of openness, inclusivity, and collaboration. Such partnership should involve equal distribution, diffusion and dissemination of STI information, technology transfer, and financial liberties. Finally, I wish to underscore that by sponsoring resolution on science and technology and innovation, Pakistan sincerely hopes that this will help in promoting the wholesome uplift and transformation of the Asia Pacific region and living standards of its people. I thank you all.
Thank you, Excellency, for your statement. The next speaker on my list is His Excellency Mr. Kian Hongshan, the Assistant Minister of Foreign Affairs, People's Republic of China. Excellency, you have the floor.
主席先生、女士们、先生们，首先，我代表中国政府祝贺联合国亚太经社会第72届会议顺利的召开，感谢泰国政府和亚太经社会秘书处所做的周到的安排。今年是落实2030年可持续发展议程的元年，万事开头难，各国应当齐心协力，把第一步走稳走实。围绕这一目标，年初以来，各方以联合国为核心平台，开展了深入的讨论。大家普遍认为，落实工作必须树立正确导向，实现国内发展战略与国际发展议程的有机结合，必须坚持自主自愿，支持各国探索具有自身特色的发展道路，必须优化发展伙伴关系，营造有业于发展的国际环境，必须动员全方位的参与，实现协同增效。各位同事，亚太地区发展任务艰巨，但是也最具有活力和潜力。过去15年，亚太国家对全球实现千年发展目标功不可没，让我们朝着2030年可持续发展目标再出发，继续领跑全球的发展。第一，我们要支持亚太经社会发挥积极作用，为成员国落实工作提供实际支持。各方要共同努力，支持亚太经社会的在政策协调、项目实施等领域拓展合作，帮助发展中国家 加强能力建设。第二，我们要持续推进互联互通和区域经济一体化，为可持续发展打造牢固的支撑。要推动各国彼此对接发展战略，在交通运输、贸易投资等等领域挖掘合作潜力，深化开放型亚太经济格局。第三，我们要坚持创新发展，不断培育亚太发展新动力。本届年会以科学技术和创新促进可持续发展为主题，具有重要的意义。要支持亚太经社会进一步拓展合作思路，创新合作方式，释放积极的效能。各位同事，中国政府高度重视2030年可持续发展议程，我们贯彻创新、协调、绿色、开放、共享的发展理念，坚持发展是第一要务，将落实工作与执行“十三五”规划纲要、全面建成小康社会有机的相结合，力争同步实现改革发展和建设各个目标。我们建立起了43家政府部门参与的国内协调机制，正在加紧制定国别方案。未来5年，我们将帮助现有标准下5575万农村贫困人口全部脱贫。中国将于今年9月在杭州主办20国集团峰会。我们把包容和联动式发展列为峰会的4个重点议题之一，重点讨论落实2030年可持续发展议程，首次将发展问题置于全球宏观经济政策协调的突出位置。我们正在推动制定 G20 落实2030年议程行动计划，相信这将为全球落实工作注入强大的政治推动力。中方还将于明年主办亚太残疾人10年中期评估高级别政府间会议，帮助残疾人群体深度融入2030年可持续发展议程落实的进程。我们将切实落实习近平主席在出席联合国成立70周年的系列峰会期间宣布的各项举措，深化南南合作，向其他发展中国家提供力所能及的帮助。各位同事，中国是国际发展体系的积极参与者和受益者，也是建设性的贡献者。我们倡议共建“一带一路”，目的就是通过深化互利合作，帮助沿线发展中国家完善基础设施，融入互联互通网络，提升工业化水平，增强内生发展动力。这是中国面向本地区乃至全球提供的最重要的公共产品，体现了中国的国际责任和担当，也是符合时代潮流的重大发展路径的创新，必将为2030年可持续发展议程的实施注入强大的推动力。去年亚太经社会年会通过决议，表达了成员国支持“一带一路”等重大倡议推进落实的共同决心。我们愿与亚太经社会成员国围绕“一带一路”加强协作，争取在交通运输、贸易便利化、能源、信息技术等领域取得新的突破，打造高水平互联互通网络和区域经济合作框架，为亚太发展增添新的动力，创造新的空间。主席先生，各位同事，中国高度重视亚太经社会地位和作用。我在此宣布，今年中国政府将把中国 亚太经社会合作基金规模大幅度扩充至100万美元和150万人民币。未来5年，中国还将向联合国可持续农机中心每年注资160万美元。我们愿意依托亚太经社会这一重要的平台，与成员国拓展合作，分享发展机遇，为亚太地区的共同发展和繁荣进步做出新的贡献。谢谢各位 ，Thank you。
Thank you, Excellency, for your statement. The next speaker on my list is Lao People's Democratic Republic, His Excellency Dr. Kikeo Chantaburi, the Vice Minister of Planning and Investment. Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, distinguished guests, delegates, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I would like to congratulate you on your election as a chairperson of the 22nd session of the UN ESCAP, held under the theme Science, Technology and Innovation for Sustainable Development. My delegation would like also to commend the ESCAP Secretariat for the excellent arrangement made for our session, including the organization of a series of ministerial panels and high-level events, as well as for the preparation of various important reports. Mr. Chairperson, the 72nd session of the Commission is convened at the critical juncture after the adoption of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and Paris Agreement on Climate Change, as well as the halfway of the implementation of the Istanbul Programme of Action for the LDCs. Among others, it is the time that we need to translate political commitments and development agenda at the global level into national action and develop well-functioning coordination and implementation mechanism so as to ensure sustainable development for all, leaving no one behind. We share the view that our region is recognized for its economic and development success and growing integration with strong dimension to turn global commitment into reality at the national level. In this context, I would like to state that all 36 countries with the special needs in the Asia and the Pacific face a number of common and divergent challenges, given the geographical diversity and variety of the specific structural vulnerabilities. Therefore, they need special attention and support from the international community for their development goals. Mr. Chairman, given the LDC experience in the MDGs implementation, effort to reduce poverty and improve social conditions cannot be sustained over the long term without rapid and inclusive economic progress. Building productive capacity is therefore essential for to achieving lasting social progress. Education, women empowerment, quality healthcare, and other forms of social progress contribute to the economic growth. We share the view that the effective use of science and technology and innovation, STI, is a key means of implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. Recognizing the important role of the STI, we encourage the Committee on Information and Communication Technology, Science, Technology, and Innovation established last year by the 71st session of the Commission to help the Member States deal with issues relating to science, technology, and innovation for sustainable development. We believe that STI can create new economic opportunities, which mean creating jobs and wealth in the manner that the environmentally sound and socially inclusive. As such, it had the potential to be one of the primary engines powering the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, especially by countries with special needs. To this end, it will be essential for country to accelerate to shift toward knowledge-based economy and develop appropriate SCI action plan. The role of the private sector and research institutions will be also of great importance to the government effort in this regard. Mr. Chairperson, at the country level, being both least developed and landlocked country, while recognizing special challenges and development needs, the government is strongly committed to effective implementation of the both Istanbul and Vienna Program of Action, as well as MDGs, by mainstreaming their objective and priorities into the national social and economic development plans. Over the past years, progress has been made in the implementation of the MDGs in many areas, including the resettlement and allocation of stable jobs for the people and improved infrastructure and social service network, which result in the reducing poverty rate of 23.2% in 2013. The economic growth steady from 2011 to 15 between 7 and 8% annually. The growth facilitated broader social and economic development, including increasing employment, enhanced agricultural production, more trade, and higher public and private investment. Nevertheless, it is recognized that the Lao PDR will continue to face numerous challenges. These include, among other potential economic vulnerabilities, such as high reliance on the natural resource sector and limit access to the economic opportunities, a relatively small population, absence of social safety nets, and geographical constraints. Reducing such as economic vulnerabilities through improvement in social safety net, improving employment and job security, stabilization of export of goods and services, and addressing merchandise export concentration is critical for the LDC graduation, as well as strengthening our country's competitiveness in the newly established AEC. Another development challenge is ensuring that the benefit from high economic growth are evenly distributed and translated into inclusive and sustainable human development. In addition, the presence of the UXO in country continues to pose serious challenges, destroying life and limiting agricultural production and expansion. Mr. Chairperson, the 8th and SDP of the Lao PDR focuses on the 3 criteria for LDC graduation and 3 dimensions of sustainable development goals. Its overall objective is to ensure the poverty of the people is reduced significantly in all areas. The country is developed out of the status of LDC by 2020 through continuously inclusive and sustainable growth, maximum effective management and utilization of the natural resources, actively participate in the regional and international integration. In addition, the Lao government will continue its effort to achieve the unmet MDGs goals and targets, including the localized MDG 9 on reducing impact of UXO, which will be implemented as localized SDGs 18 for our country. Mr. Chairperson, let me conclude by stating that to achieve our development objective, the Lao government has mobilized own effort and domestic potential for enhancing quality growth and inclusive development. At the same time, national development efforts need to be supported by an enabling international economic environment, the availability of the appropriate knowledge, technology, innovation, and resources, as well as capacity building. On that note, we are of the view that the international community has to pursue policy coherent and enabling environment for sustainable development at all levels and by all actors, and to effectively implement SDG 7, which hold the key to the success and effective implementation of SDGs. Thank you very much for your kind intention.
Thank you, Excellency, for your statement. Before I invite the next speaker, I'll invite the Secretariat to make a housekeeping announcement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and sorry for this announcement, but I'd like to inform the distinguished delegates that in conference room 2 there will be a vote on the draft resolution on paperless trade. Still, we do not know when, but it is expected a vote. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Excellency, we have our next speaker on the list. Is Vietnam, His Excellency Mr. Nguyen Nguyen Dung, the Assistant Minister of Foreign Affairs. Excellency, you have the floor. May I remind all speakers as well of your 5-minute time allocation, because we still have a number of speakers for the afternoon. Thank you, Excellency.
I will. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, at the outset, allow me on behalf of the Vietnamese delegations to thank the government of Thailand and the ESCAP Secretariat for your diligent preparation and excellent arrangement for these sessions. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, our session this year takes place at a time when the world economy sees its slowest growth rate in the post-global financial crisis period. Uneven growth between countries and groups of countries continue to increase. It is not an exception for Asia Pacific, while the region is even faced with other challenges such as poverty, inequality, natural disasters, climate change, environmental degradations, water insecurity, and so on. Given its increasing openness, the Vietnamese economy is affected by the volatility of the world economy. We have made great efforts in maintaining macroeconomic stability, ensuring social security, restructuring the economy, and transforming the growth model. However, there remain challenges facing us. Macroeconomic fundamentals are not yet entirely firm. Human resource development and application of science and technology remain poor. The rich and poor gap remains significant between population groups and regions. In addition, we have to shoulder issues brought about by climate change, as well as water and food security challenges. Right now, about 2 million Vietnamese people, especially in the South Central Highlands and the Mekong Delta regions, are hit by the most serious drought and saline intrusions in 90 years. During his recent trip to Vietnam on May the 5th, UN Deputy Secretary General Jan Eliasson visited the most severely affected localities and emphasized that he will bring up these issues at the upcoming humanitarian summit in Turkey this month. He also promised to call upon the international community to provide emergency humanitarian assistance to the Vietnamese people living in the affected areas. Against these backdrops, like other developing countries in the region, Vietnam calls for ESCAP's assistance to overcome these challenges and realize important development agreements as the international communities has approved in 2015, namely the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, the Addis Ababa Action Agenda on Financing for Development, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, and the Paris Agreement on Climate Change. To the ends, we would like to recommend 4 major actions to be undertaken as follows. First, as highlighted by the team chosen for this session, ESCAP's activity should promote international cooperation and assistance for developing countries to narrow the technology gap. Second, strengthening inter- and inter-regional connectivity, including maritime connectivity, should be of ESCAP's high priority. Vietnam believes that promoting maritime connectivity while ensuring the maritime security and safety plays an important role in the successful implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Third, ESCAP's cooperation with regional partners, including ASEAN community, should be strengthened. In responding to increasing challenges of water insecurity, ESCAP needs to work more closely with the Mekong River Commission, an organization playing a critical role in the cooperation to manage water resources of the Mekong River, thereby contributing to the sustainable development in the regions. Fourth, peace and development are the two sides of the coin. Sustainable development goals cannot be achieved in the event of war, conflict, and instability. Therefore, the maintenance of peace and security on the basis of respect for international law is a prerequisite for the successful implementation of sustainable development goals. We need to promote a satisfactory settlement of conflicts and disputes by peaceful means on the basis of international law, equal and mutually beneficial cooperation among countries. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, for our part, as emphasized by the President of Vietnam at the UN summit in September last year, Vietnam commits to use all necessary resources to successfully implement the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and Sustainable Development Goals. We will make active and responsible contribution to the joint efforts to ensure that no one is left behind in this process. Since the beginning of this year, Vietnam has assumed its membership at the ECOSOC for the term 2016-2018 and actively participated in the work of the Council. This July, we intend to attend the high-level ECOSOC segment at unprecedented high level. Vietnam will work with other regional ECOSOC members to raise the voice and promote the priorities of the Asia-Pacific region at ECOSOC and uphold the role and contribution of ESCAP in promoting socio-economic development in the region. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Excellency, for your statement. The next speaker on my list is Armenia. We have His Excellency Mr. Robert Harutianan, the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs. Excellency, you have the floor.
Your Excellency, Mr. Chairperson, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, allow me at the outset to express our sincere gratitude to the Royal Thai government, Her Excellency Ms. Shamshat Akhtar, the Executive Secretary and the Secretariat of the UN ESCAP, for the excellent organization of this 72nd session of the Commission. The government of Armenia attached utmost importance to the implementation of the main objectives of the Vienna Programme. Integration of landlocked developing countries into the global economy is significant to their development. Developing countries, particularly the LLDCs, require the increase of trade and financing. There is a need to build a trade-related infrastructure, technical and productive capacities in order to participate in trade in a fair and beneficial manner. Geographical remoteness and inaccessibility to the sea complicates the access of the landlocked developing countries to the world markets. The exports suffer due to increased cost of transportation, complexity of customs procedures, and other procedural delays. The imports also face increased delivery costs. Dear colleagues, the Vienna Action Programme for Landlocked Developing Countries for the decade 2014-2024 has been distributed by the government of Armenia to the respective governmental structures with the recommendation to duly consider the high priorities of the action programme, with a view to include them into the framework of their activities and the upcoming projects. In December 2015, the government of the Republic of Armenia adopted national program of the implementation of Vienna Declaration and Action Plan. Being a landlocked country and having outlets to the sea only via Georgia in the north and via Iran in the south, and located on the crossroads between west and east, north and south, Armenia is destined to take an active role in the development of the international transport corridors, like Traseka, north-south and southeastern axis of the main trans-European transportation ways. Landlocked developed countries need to be supported financially and technologically. In this regard, the cooperation with important financial institutions is of a great importance. The integration of the Republic of Armenia in regional and sub-regional programs is also of high importance, taking into consideration the 2-decade-long blockade and the policy of isolation towards Armenia by 2 neighboring countries. As a landlocked country, Armenia has the same needs as other countries like we are. Development of communications and commerce, trade promotion, poverty eradication for the improvement of the social and economic situation in the country. The geopolitical tensions also put under danger the sustainability of economic development and limit the investments. At the same time, the country spares no efforts to overcome the challenges it's facing while actively involving itself into international, regional and sub-regional integration processes. In this regard, important progress has been made by Armenia since the adoption of the Vienna Declaration and joining the Eurasian Economic Union, which opens new economic opportunities for attracting investments, mainly from EU partner member states. It will also boost the Armenian export to the third countries and different organizations within EU. It's noteworthy to mention the already established EU-UNIDO and EU-FAO cooperation. Armenia, therefore, continues to closely cooperate with international financial organizations on the implementation of vital transport projects targeted at the reconstruction and modernization of the motorway and railway infrastructure. The North-South Road Corridor Investment Program is a major infrastructure project which aims at connecting the southern border of the country with the northern point by means of a highway to be built or reconstructed according to the international criteria and thus provide access to international markets. The reconstruction and development of 556-kilometer long North-South Road Corridor will enable facilitation and intensification of both domestic and foreign transport and trade. The project implementation, carried out through loans from the Asian Development Bank and recently from the European Investment Bank, will lead to the development of efficient transit roads providing access to the Black Sea through the territory of Armenia and Georgia and then to the European countries. The project objectives also include facilitation of access to foreign markets toward Central Asia and developing Armenia's major economic spheres and export expansions. Despite the problems and challenges that Armenia faces nowadays, my government keeps looking for effective ways for ensuring better life quality for its citizens. In particular, the first wave of reforms in Armenia has laid solid foundations for the package of the second generation of improvements targeted at the increase of the country's competitiveness and the modernization of the economy, accentuating the shift towards a knowledge-based economy. Mr. Chairperson, in the end, I avail myself of this opportunity to once again congratulate all of us on the occasion of the ESCAP 72nd session and to wish successful work to all delegations and participants. Thank you for the attention.
Thank you, Excellency, for your statement. Next speaker on my list is the Russian Federation. We have Mr. Alexander Pankin, the Director of the Department of International Organizations, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Sir, you have the floor.
Уважаемый господин председатель, благодарю вас. Дамы и господа, коллеги, 72-я сессия ESCAP проходит в поворотный период для многостороннего сотрудничества под эгидой ООН, и успех в реализации повестки дня до 2030 года во многом будет зависеть от прогресса Азиатско-Тихоокеанского региона. Именно сюда во многом смещается центр глобального экономического развития. Именно поэтому нашему региону суждено внести определяющий вклад в реализацию целей устойчивого развития. Мы последовательно выступаем за усиление роли региональных комиссий, в реализации профильных целей устойчивого развития. ESCAP и ее исполнительный секретарь могут рассчитывать на нашу дальнейшую поддержку на этом треке. Одним из приоритетов повестки до 2030 года впервые стало углубление международного научно-технического сотрудничества. Применительно к ESCAP успешная реализация этой задачи будет во многом зависеть от наращивания сфокусированного на инновациях сотрудничества в приоритетных областях экспертизы комиссии. Для нас, для России, это в первую очередь энергетика, транспорт, региональная связуемость, уменьшение опасности бедствий, упрощение процедур торговли и ряд других. Мы приветствуем решение о создании комитета ESCAP по энергетике, выражаем надежду на скорейший созыв его первой сессии. В качестве весомого вклада России в укрепление энергобезопасности в регионе мы рассматриваем крупномасштабные инновационные проекты развития на Дальнем Востоке инфраструктуры для производства сжиженного природного газа и сотрудничество со странами региона в области атомной энергетики. Мы привержены наращиванию сотрудничества с ESCAP в области транспорта с акцентом на развитие транзитных коридоров и эффективную эксплуатацию интермодальных транспортно-логистических систем, включая сухие порты, упрощение процедур и согласование регламентирующих правил и положений. Обширную повестку дня ESCAP в области транспорта предстоит обсудить на Министерской транспортной конференции в ноябре-декабре этого года, и Россия готова предоставить площадку для этого мероприятия. Странам, членам нашего региона, также предстоит внести вклад в подготовку первой глобальной конференции по устойчивому транспорту, которая пройдет по инициативе Генерального секретаря ООН в ноябре в Ашхабаде. Задача — сформулировать единое стратегическое видение формата современного международного взаимодействия в области транспорта на перспективу. И мы рассчитываем на скоординированность ESCAP, Европейской экономической комиссии ООН и Департамента по экономическим и социальным вопросам секретариата ООН в подготовке этих мероприятий. Придаем особое значение преодолению цифрового разрыва, закреплению ведущей роли государства в управлении интернетом в интересах всех стран и сопряжении с их национальными планами в области развития. Поддерживаем реализацию под эгидой ESCAP инициативы Азиатско-Тихоокеанской цифровой магистрали. Хочу сказать, что в России стремительно расширяет спектр своего применения уникальная навигационная спутниковая система, называется «Эра ГЛОНАСС». И это не только навигационные услуги, но и регулирование движения по автодорогам, информирование о происшествиях, обеспечение безопасности дорожного движения. Одновременно мы поддерживаем намерение секретариата активизировать работу по использованию геоинформационных систем в целях уменьшения опасности бедствий, что актуально для различных стран и субрегионов. Господин председатель, за счет ежегодного добровольного российского взноса в размере 1,2 миллиона долларов США уже за много лет реализованы десятки полезных проектов, оказавших положительное влияние на социально-экономическое развитие стран АТР, ну и на саму комиссию. Рассчитываем продолжить сотрудничество на приоритетных направлениях, включая уделение особого внимания потребностям стран Центральной Азии. Основной упор в государственной политике России делается на модернизации, диверсификации отечественной экономики, восстановлении ее позиций в качестве технологического лидера по широкому спектру наукоемких производств. Мы развиваем тот задел, который унаследовали от предыдущих поколений. Мы взяли курс на расширение доли отраслей с высокой добавленной стоимостью. Недавно Россия была поставлена на 14 место в составляемом агентством Bloomberg рейтинге самых инновационных стран. Надеемся подняться еще выше. Непосредственно в национальной экономике ставим задачу создать в течение ближайших лет 25 миллионов новых высокотехнологических рабочих мест. В заключение я хотел бы сказать, что существенное внимание уделяется развитию инновационных отраслей экономики и в рамках Евразийского экономического союза. Мы слышали в ходе дискуссии на этой сессии, что делается в рамках ЕАЭС. Евразийский экономический союз открыт к взаимодействию со всеми заинтересованными государствами и интеграционными группировками. Считаем, что региональные экономические комиссии могут помочь в этом деле, потому что конечная цель этих усилий – выстраивание единого экономического пространства на карте Евразии. Задача кажется амбициозной, но выполнимая. Благодарю вас. Спасибо.
Thank you, sir, for your statement. Our next speaker is Nepal. We have His Excellency Mr. Kaganath Adhikari, the Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary and Permanent Representative of Nepal to ESCAP. Again, let me remind the speakers of the 5-minute allocation, and if you have more to say, then you can submit your statements to the Secretary. Thank you, Excellency. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your Excellency, Mr. Chairman, Your Excellencies, Deputy Prime Minister and Ministers, Madam Executive Secretary of ESCAP, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, on behalf of the Nepalese delegation and on my own, I would like to congratulate you, Mr. Chairman, and other members of the Bureau on your election to the respective seats in this 72nd session of ESCAP, which is being held under the theme of science, technology, and innovation. This theme is very relevant and appropriate, especially in the context of attaining the Sustainable Development Goals. I also assure you, Mr. Chairman, of full cooperation from my delegation in steering this session to a successful conclusion. Let me also take this opportunity to express our deep appreciation to the Executive Secretary of ESCAP and her team in the Secretariat for their hard work and excellent arrangements made for this meeting. Mr. Chairman, with the adoption of the 2030 Development Agenda last September, the world development discourse has been centered around the ways and means to achieve the SDGs. This is also a reflection of the commitment of the international community to take the level of development among all states to an acceptable level, or raising the standards of living of our peoples to a level that can fairly be called human. My country, Nepal, is an LDC and an LLDC. We have spent many decades struggling to improve the standard of living of our people. We have made progress, but still we have to work hard to realize the SDGs and raise the people's quality of life. Things are easily said than done. Our situation has shown that we should be prepared for new situations and unforeseen difficulties and problems. We have seen the example of the deadly earthquakes that hit Nepal in April-May last year, which caused immense human loss and sufferings and destruction of public assets and private property. The government of Nepal has recently brought out the 5-year reconstruction work plan in the form of post-disaster recovery framework. According to the framework, the damages and losses are estimated at about $8.38 billion. We are thankful to the international community for their immediate response after the earthquake, and also for their pledges to assist us in the reconstruction. Mr. Chairman, the devastation caused by the massive earthquake has directly hampered the momentum of economic recovery and growth that we were gaining after the reinstatement of democracy in Nepal in 1990. Here I would like to mention that despite a decade-long of insurgency, resource crunch, and devastation resulted by the earthquakes, we have achieved most of the MBD's targets. Nepal is on track of graduating from the status as a least developed country by 2022. Of the 3 criteria, GNI, EVI, and HAI, we have already met 2, the EVI and HAI criteria. With growth scaling up and rebounding, Nepal was very much optimistic about improving the GNI criteria and continue maintaining the other 2. However, the earthquakes have new macroeconomic consequences. Besides, there are some other critical challenges facing our economy. The trade deficit is alarming, with imports accounting for over 80% of total trade. Development infrastructure, especially in energy and transport, which are key to improving the competitiveness of our economy, have been identified as critical constraints. We have therefore to create a more conducive environment for foreign investment, especially in infrastructure building. Moreover, climate change, which has become a global risk, has made a serious impact on our development efforts. As a result of climate change, glaciers in the Himalayas have become prone to meltdown and burst, posing a serious threat to the livelihood and ecology of the entire Himalayan and the surrounding regions. It has become a major concern to the government of Nepal. Mr. Chairman, Nepal has already prepared National Report on Sustainable Development Goals and is currently preparing its 14th periodic plan, focusing on mainstreaming the SDGs at national plan and programs. The national report has identified the main challenges that Nepal is likely to face in attaining the SDGs. They include mainstreaming the SDGs into periodic plan and annual budget, localization of SDGs at sub-national level, upscaling implementation, mobilizing financial resources, both domestic and external, capacity development at the national and sub-national levels, post-disaster recovery and reconstruction challenges, and strengthening governance and service delivery. Effectively facing and resolving all these challenges is an arduous task, but with commitment and determination and the support from the international community, we are confident of making progress in all areas. Mr. Chairman, distinguished delegates, as I mentioned above, Nepal has made good progress in social development. We are committed to creating favorable environment for all sections of our people and attaining the objective of inclusive and sustainable development. In September last year, Nepal promulgated the new constitution prepared by the Constituent Assembly. The constitution is a very good example of inclusive democracy. It provides for equal opportunities for all sections of the society and special arrangements for mainstreaming women, Dalit, Madhesi people, and people from marginalized and backward communities by enhancing their participation in political process and administration. The new constitution provides a solid foundation for economic development and social harmony in the country, underpinned by all basic features of a democratic society. Mr. Chairman, distinguished delegates, the year 2016 is a historic year in global development policy making, as it is the beginning of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which, with its 17 goals and many targets, provides a comprehensive and universal framework for development policy over the coming 15 years. ESCAP is a very useful and a truly representative intergovernmental platform to discuss and shape up the Asia-Pacific region strategy for achieving the global targets. It's time for the Asia-Pacific region to adopt a development strategy that relies more on domestic and regional demand that, among other things, nurtures inclusiveness, equality, and social stability. Against this background, we are confident that the ESCAP will play a more active and effective role in the years ahead in assisting the needy members in alleviating poverty, promoting regional cooperation for economic prosperity, and achieving internationally agreed goals in the region. Before I conclude, Mr. Chairman, on behalf of my delegation and on my own, I would like to express our gratitude to ESCAP Secretariat for inviting us to attend this 72nd session of the Commission. It has indeed been a great opportunity for us to share with our friends important issues, concerns, and development challenges of Nepal and learn from other ESCAP members' countries' experiences. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Excellency, for your statement. The next speaker on my list is Brunei Darussalam, His Excellency Haji Ismail bin Haji Abdul Manap, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of Brunei Darussalam. Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And a very good afternoon. Mr. Chairman, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to take this opportunity to express our gratitude on behalf of the Brunei Darussalam delegation to the United Nations ESCAP for the excellent arrangements made for the 72nd session of the Commission. We would also like to extend our thanks to the people in the Royal Thai government for the kind hospitality extended to us. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in the past year, we witnessed the adoption of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, and thus the main task before us now is to ensure its successful implementation. Brunei Darussalam recognizes that much work still lies ahead of us, and we are resolute in our commitment towards in implementation of the 2030 agenda. In achieving our goals for a sustainable and inclusive development, a full consideration of issues relating to science, technology, and innovation is vital. Adopted at the third International Conference on Financing for Development, the Addis Ababa Action Agenda realized that the development and implementation of new innovation and or technologies, associated know-how transfer to technology among powerful drivers for providing jobs, economic growth, and sustainable development. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in Brunei Darussalam, our development goals are a reflection of the importance of the sectors of science, technology, and innovation, because we believe that greater capacity in these areas have the ability to drive significant economic growth in the country. We thus support this year's theme, Science, Technology, and Innovation for Sustainable Development. In realizing the goals of sustainable development, we believe that the Agenda 2030 is in line with Brunei Darussalam National Development Goals under the Brunei Vision 2035. And these are implemented through the 5-yearly National Development Plans, or NDP, whereby Brunei Darussalam is currently in its final stage of the 10th NDP 2012 to 2017. There are 6 development trusts of the NDP, and it has been identified that research and development, R&D, and science and technology, S&T, plays a big role in the productive and progressive economy based on knowledge and innovation development trust. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, as part of strengthening Brunei Darussalam Foundation for this development trust, several priority research and development R&D clusters were identified through the Brunei Research Council, BRC, namely Science, Technology and Engineering, Social Science, and Art and Culture, where Brunei Darussalam has noted competitive strengths. Under the 10 NDP, Brunei Darussalam has allocated Brunei dollar 172 million for the BRC to mobilize and enhance these clusters. This is through research grants to research institutions and the Brunei Research Incentive Scheme program that provides cost-sharing grant between the government and foreign companies to conduct research and development activities in Brunei Darussalam. These initiatives, among others, are proof of Brunei Darussalam aspiration to build the larger capability in these priorities clusters as a catalyst for the diversified economy and national competitiveness in line with our national vision. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, in our pursuit for economic diversification and growth, Brunei Darussalam does not lose sight of the other elements of achieving sustainable development. We hold great importance in pursuing balanced growth through our green initiative, which, among others, include energy efficiency conservation EEC measures, and the Green Building Initiative GBI, which was officially launched in February 2012. This move was aimed to drive the transition of the country's building industry towards sustainability by promoting green concept into the design, construction, and operation of buildings. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in this regard, we believe that ESCAP is a valuable and constructive platform deepening cooperation with member states within this region to address the challenges and achieving a truly sustainable development. We believe that through knowledge sharing, we can support initiative of a low carbon society that employ appropriate technologies and green innovations. We commend the Commission's ongoing effort in promoting sustainable development in this region, and we are greatly supportive of their work. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, realizing our national vision, Brunei Vision 2035, is essential for Brunei Darussalam to effectively progress in tandem with the 2030 agenda, with the commitment to science, technology, and innovation for sustainable development. Thank you for your kind attention. Wabillahi taufiq hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Excellency, for your statement. The next speaker on my list is Marshall Islands. We have Her Excellency Ms. Madeleine E. Kabua, the permanent representative of the Republic of Marshall Islands to the United Nations. Excellency, you have the floor.
Warm congratulations, Chair, and thank you very much for this opportunity to speak this evening. Chair, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I bring you the warm welcome and greeting of Yahweh from the Republic of the Marshall Islands. It is important that the Pacific sits, and together with the wider Asia-Pacific region, have gathered at the Commission to consider our initial step in implementation, in turning the important and grand words into local realities. In advance of this meeting, the ESCAP Secretariat had prepared an important and useful report on support for HDG implementation in the Pacific SIDS. This report demonstrated an important understanding of the unique challenges and structures within the Pacific Islands region and the importance of effective integration of multiple strategies at the global, regional, and national levels. The MDGs were never well linked with either regional or national strategies. So it is perhaps no wonder that in many cases only limited progress was achieved. Now it is truly our time to do better. The report rightly placed strong emphasis on the role of sustainable offshore fishing. If distant fishing nations, many from the wider Asia-Pacific region, would only work with us as partner, and not just for their immediate commercial interests, we in the Pacific might thrive and develop our own national revenue stream with longer-term sustainable fish stocks in place and have a much more stronger foothold to meet the SDGs with true national ownership. Finally, the report recognized the importance of island-tailored strategies to address the SDGs, because they are both a transformative opportunity, but also a unique challenge where so many goals easily can overwhelm small island states' mind, including our limited data capacity. In summary, this report and its analysis place the appropriate emphasis on the P of ESCAP by directing us to island-tailored strategies. However, we are still left behind with perhaps an unsatisfied appetite at the end of this important report. We do see important actions and initiatives from the ESCAP and the UN system working with our regional agencies to connect the dots between the global and the regional levels. Yet, more is needed to be done at the national levels to truly align ourselves with the SDGs, to more closely integrate physical and national planning, which in many instances doesn't exist in the long term with the SDGs, and to take this to detail level, including potentially performance-based budgeting. We also suggest the development of practical midterm target between now and 2030 is key. Finally, more assistance is needed to closely integrate the SDGs with existing bilateral pathways. The Pacific Islands are often heavily dependent on foreign assistance, and in particular my country, the Marshall Islands. While much effort is needed from our national government and our bilateral partners, closer cooperation in the middle of our national effort is also needed from the UN system. This is ultimately a challenge when there is limited in-country presence or its delivery is not closely attuned with the large bureaucratic food chain from New York to Bangkok and sometimes to Suva, Fiji, but more rarely to our local communities. We would suggest that a more systematic approach with stronger emphasis on in-country assistance is ultimately needed. While welcome, regional workshops and model policies will not, in and of themselves, get the job done. Our primary focus is on improving national follow-up, but wider UN processes are also important. In addition to the ECOSOC level political forum in New York, further discussions at the UN are underway to follow up structures to the SDGs. How do ESCAP's activities and follow-up dialogue with those with the wider UN? For small countries like mine, how can we reduce potential redundancies and ensure our most effective presence? In closing, we are cautiously optimistic on a path forward for Pacific Islands towards the SDGs. The early recognition of island-specific strategies is important, and the bulk of the work needed is within our own capitals. We cannot leave it to chance that international processes alone will force the important links to be made. Thank you, Chair, and again, congratulations. Well done.
Thank you, Excellency, for your statement. Can we ask the Secretariat for a housekeeping announcement, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for giving me the floor again. I'd like to inform the distinguished delegates that in conference room 4, there is a side event that actually already started, organized by the delegation of Mongolia on One Belt, One Road. And right after, there will be a bus leaving from the entrance of the UNCC building at 5:40 p.m. on the way to the Royal Thai government-sponsored reception. Allow me, Mr. Chair, to give another, with all the paper, housekeeping announcement. The Secretariat would like to announce that an evaluation questionnaire will be provided to each delegation for their consolidated feedback on the Commission session. The questionnaire is intended to assess the relevance and effectiveness of this session for the improvement of future sessions. Your feedback over the past years has been very valuable and has informed the preparation for Commission sessions. We kindly request that each participating delegation please complete the questionnaire. We recommend completing the questionnaire at the end of the session. However, if you must depart early, kindly complete the questionnaire prior to your departure. Upon completion of the questionnaire, please either leave it on your desk so that the conference officer may collect it, or drop it in one of the boxes provided near the exit door. Thank you for taking the time to provide us with your valuable feedback. I'm seeking the... Okay, so, Mr. Chair, over to you, thank you.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the conclusion of the deliberations on this agenda item for today. We shall resume our discussion on this agenda tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. for further statements by delegates. Before we adjourn, I would like to remind everyone that we shall resume the plenary tomorrow morning at 10:00 hours sharp with the Ministerial panel on the Economic and Social Survey for Asia and the Pacific. This meeting is now adjourned, and I wish you a pleasant evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Beautiful.